So let us look at a small toy example to understand better how herding actually works, right? So there, if you think about it, four different elements that we are trying to capture. The first one involves that there is a decision actually being made, right? So for example, if you think about what we have just discussed, it would either be like whether you're deciding to adopt a new technology or not, whether you are deciding whether to wear a new style of clothing or not, whether you are deciding to eat in a particular restaurant or not, or whether you are trying to support a particular position or not. So the first component of herding is that there is one decision to be made. The second component is that you have got people who are going to be making decisions sequentially, right? And each person is going to observe the choices made by those who have acted earlier, right? So sequentially, by that mean that there is a particular order in which the decisions are being made. And what happens is that the order matters in the sense that each person who comes later can observe what are the choices that were made by those who acted earlier. Then you have got each person having some private information that helps guide their decision. So it's not that they are just kind of like only observing what is out there, but they also have some private information and they are mixing that with the information that they get by observing what others do. And finally, you typically do not have a situation where the people who are coming later, they actually get to observe what the other people know, but they only have to make inferences about the private information of the other people from observing what they do. So they may have some idea of that private information, but mostly the lessons that are being learned from other people's actions is by observing what they actually do rather than direct communication about what the other people know, right? So we have got these four elements, and we want to illustrate how these four actually end up combining to kind of give rise to this phenomena of herding, right? So we are going to be doing this in the context of imagining a classroom experiment, right? Where you have got a large group of students as participants, and you have got an experimenter who has put an urn or a vase in front of the room, and there are three marbles hidden in the urn, right? So the three marbles have different colors, and students do not get to observe from where they are sitting what the colors of the three different marbles are, right? In fact, they actually are not going to be able to observe any of the colors directly, right? So we'll see how they observe colors, right? So coming back to the experimenter announces that there is a 50% chance that the urn contains two red marbles and one blue marble. And if this is the case, we are going to call this urn a majority red urn, right? Because it has the majority of the marbles in that urn are red, right? However, there's also a 50% chance that the urn actually contains two blue marbles and one red marble, in which case we are going to say that the urn is majority blue. So 50% chance it's majority red, 50% chance it's majority blue. We don't know which one it actually is, right? So what's going to happen is that one by one, each of the students are going to come to the front of the room and they're going to draw a marble from the urn. So the students do not actually get to observe all the colors of the marbles that are in the urn or the vase, right? They only get to pick one and then they get to observe the color of the marble that they have chosen, right? Okay, the student looks at the color and then the student places it back in the urn without showing it to the rest of the class. So this is very important. The students do not actually show the color that they have observed. They do not show it to the rest of the class. They only get to see it themselves, right? And then they have to put it back in the urn, right? At this time, the student has to guess whether the urn is majority red or majority blue. So recall that it is majority red if the urn had two red marbles and one blue marble, and it's majority blue if it had two blue marbles and one red marble. Why is the student guessing? Because remember that the student is only observing the color of one urn, right? The student is not observing the color of all the marbles in the urn. It's just observing the color of the marble which he or she has picked, right? Now, the student is going to publicly announce this guess to the class, right? So again, notice the important thing. The student does not show the color of the marble, but makes a guess on the basis of what the person has seen and announces this case publicly to the class, right? And this process is going to be repeated for each student. So after the first student has come, the second student is going to come and kind of like, again, follow the same procedure, pick marble, right? It does not get to observe what else is in the urn, right? Based on that, has to make a guess whether it's majority red or majority blue, and then again make this guess publicly in class, right? So why are they all kind of like doing it? Because at the end of the experiment, each student who has guessed correctly the nature of the urn or the jar has going to get a monetary prize, whereas the students who have guessed incorrectly, they guess nothing, right? So each of the students have reasons to kind of like actually guess, try and like make effort to guess correctly what is in the jar. And but they also do not have any reason to mislead their fellow students, right? Because their chances of getting a monetary benefit does not depend on how many others have done, right? So this is not strategic in the sense that you might think that students have a reason to mislead others, but that's not the case here, right? Because their payoff only depends on whether they accurately guess or not, not whether on how many others accurately guess or not, right? So this is basically the experiment that is there. And now we are going to consider what's going to happen when this experiment is performed, right? So we are going to make some assumptions, right? So first, we are going to make the assumption that all the students are going to try and reason correctly about what to do when it is their turn to guess, and they're going to use everything available at their resource, right? So what are the things that are going to be available, just to kind of give you a preview? So they know what the students earlier who have gone and done this, what have they guessed, right? It's because the guesses were public, and they will also get to see the color of the marble that they draw, right? So this is the information on the basis of which they have to answer. We are going to assume that they reason correctly. We'll see later what does it mean to say they reason correctly. And they're going to kind of make, on the basis of the reasoning, they are going to try and like guess as accurately as possible, right? So we are going to kind of consider what happens with each student in order. That's how we are going to proceed. And first, our discussion is going to be based on intuition, right? Later on, we are going to make more mathematically precise about why this certain sequence that we are going to say is going to happen. But initially, let's kind of like do it informally and using just intuition, right? So let's consider the first student. So the first student goes and picks marble, right? Observes the color. So it's either red or blue. And then on the basis of this only has to decide whether it's a red majority urn or a blue majority urn. So in this case, intuitively, because of the symmetric nature of the problem, it's pretty clear about what the student should do, right? So in case it's actually a red marble the student picks up, then the student should actually say that it's a red majority urn. And if it's a blue marble that the student picks up, then the student should go with it's a blue majority, right? So that will, again, we'll make it precise, use more mathematically later on, but intuitively, this is what you would expect, right? So notice that the first student's guess is then going to convey perfect information about what he has seen, right? Because whatever the student has picked up, the student is going to go with that, right? Again, we are going to mathematically justify this statement, but for now, hopefully it is intuitively clear. Okay, now the second student is coming in, and notice the information that the second student has. The second student does not know what is in the jar, right? Nobody knows that. But the second student knows what the first student has guessed. And because of the reasoning that we have just discussed, the second student, on the basis of that reasoning, knows exactly what the first student has seen as well, right? Now, the second student goes and selects a marble. So if the second student sees the same color that the first student has announced, then the choice is simple, right? So she should guess this color as well, right? So imagine that the first student had announced blue, and the second student also goes in and gets a blue marble. Then the second student should also announce that it's a majority blue, right? Because both of the two observations are in favor of it being a majority blue. However, if the second student actually observes that it is a red colored marble that she is picking up, then in that case, she has basically got two pieces of information, right? It's as if she has actually drawn twice, right? Why? Because the first person had actually kind of like given out the information, right? In the sense that the first person's guess actually conveys the information what the first person saw, right? So therefore, she would reason that she has seen blue once and red once. In this case, actually, again, given the symmetric nature of the problem, she should be indifferent about which case to make, right? And we'll assume that whenever we have got a situation of indifference, that that a particular person is always going to kind of like go ahead and announce the color that that person has drawn. Okay, so that's how we are going to break the tie. All right, so this is the second person. Uh, Again, basically, we see that the second person also conveys perfect information, in the sense that based on this reasoning that we just discussed, the second person also kind of like always goes with actually the color of the marble that this person has drawn, and is basically the announcement is the same as the color of the marble that is drawn. Things become more interesting from the third student onwards, right? Now, if the first two students have guessed opposite colors, so imagine that the first one had guessed blue and the second one had guessed red, then the third student should again just guess the color that he sees, right? So this is actually kind of like the same reasoning as we have been talking about. Things are symmetric so far. So whatever color you draw, you should actually kind of like go with that is the majority color, right? But imagine that the first two guesses have been the same, okay? So suppose that the first two guesses have both been blue, and the third student comes in and draws red. Then things become a bit more interesting, right? Now, typically we are going to only have information about what the students have guessed and not what they have seen. But because of the reasoning we have discussed, we know that for the first two students, the guesses convey perfect information, in the sense that the guesses correspond to exactly what they have actually seen in their first place, right? So in this case, the third student can actually also reason as if, when he's going to draw it, it's as if he has seen three draws from the urn, right? The two that were drawn by the first two students, right? The two blue, and the third one, which he has drawn, the red, right? Now, based on this information, based on the fact that there have been two drawings of blue and one drawing of red, then things become interesting, because we'll see that in this case, he should ignore his private information that he had drawn red, and he should go ahead and guess that the urn is majority blue, right? Why is this true? Again, you have to wait a bit for you to be kind of like seeing a mathematical demonstration of this. But intuitively, it is true, because it's as if you have got three different draws, right? And out of the three draws, you have got two blue and one red. So you should go with the fact that it's blue majority rather than red majority. That's the idea, right? Okay, so what do we kind of like draw from this? When the first guesses are the same, then the third student should guess this color as well, regardless of which color he draws, right? So we already discussed why, if the first two guesses are blue and the student is drawing red, then the student should go with blue. But imagine that the third student had also drawn blue, right? After the first two were blue, then he should go with blue as well, right? So clearly, he should just go with whatever the first two guesses have been, if those two guesses were the same, right? And now, what about the rest of the class? They don't actually get to observe what the third student actually had drawn, right? Remember, the students only get to hear what the other students who are coming in before they are guessing, right? They don't actually get to observe the color of the marble that they have drawn, right? So in this case, the third student, the rest of the class only observes the third student saying, let's say, blue, right? But they don't get to see that maybe he had drawn red, but on the basis of this kind of like reasoning, the student had said blue, right? So in this case, we are going to say that an information cascade has begun, in the sense that you have got this herding behavior coming out. That is that people are ignoring their own private information, right? In this case, the third student ignored that he had actually drawn a red marble and had just gone ahead with what the earlier student had kind of like said, right? But notice the important thing. This is not on the basis of just blindly copying what others have said. This is on the basis of kind of like reasoning and thinking, okay, what does the evidence kind of say, correct? Now, what about the fourth situation? This is actually interesting, because suppose that the first three guesses have been blue, right? Now, the student understands that the information from the first two kind of like guesses are perfect, in the sense that they must have been based on the basis of what the students actually observe, right? That they must have actually seen two blue marbles. However, the fourth student understands exactly the reasoning that the third student did, right? And therefore can understand that the third student's guess does not convey any information at this stage, right? Because regardless of whether the third student had drawn red or blue, it is in the third student's interest to have actually announced that it is majority blue, right? So in this case, there is no information content in what the third student is saying, right? So the third student's guess conveys no information at all. And therefore, the fourth student is exactly in the same situation from the point of view of making a decision as the third student was, right? Which is that you have got as if two draws of blue. Now you're going to be the one who is going to come in and select whether to kind of like draw red or blue. But regardless of whatever color you draw, you are also going to go ahead and guess blue. So this has so far been an informal discussion of what is going on in this experiment, but now we'll make things a bit more precise mathematically by using tools from probability that you have seen before, namely Bayes' theorem and the accompanying notion of conditional probability.